Scientists found this gene in all super-agers. At 93 years old, her brain scans stunned the scientists. Her memory? Sharper than most 50-year-olds. Her speech? Fluid, witty, and precise. No signs of dementia. No cognitive decline. Just a fierce sparkle in her eyes and a mind that refuses to age, and she's not alone. Across the globe, a rare group of seniors are defying time itself, not just surviving their 80s and 90s, but thriving with youthful brains, razor-sharp focus, and emotional resilience that would humble even the young. They're called Super-Agers. And for decades, scientists believed it was luck, lifestyle, or sheer willpower. But now, they've found something else. A specific gene, quietly present, consistently expressed, and radically powerful, showing up in nearly every super-ager they've studied. Could this gene be the blueprint for a longer, sharper, more vibrant life? In today's video, we'll uncover what scientists discovered inside the DNA of super-agers, and how this tiny genetic signature could reshape everything we thought we knew about growing old. But first, let's understand who these remarkable people really are. Who are the super-agers? Super-agers are not your average elderly individuals. They're in their 80s and 90s, yet their brains perform like those of people decades younger. These aren't just occasional outliers, there's an entire scientific classification forming around them. Researchers at Northwestern University coined the term super-agers after studying seniors with astonishing cognitive abilities that defy conventional aging. In one long-term study, participants over 80 were given rigorous memory tests. The results? Some of them scored on par with 50-year-olds, recalling long lists, processing new information rapidly, and showing little to no signs of cognitive deterioration. Even more stunning was what brain scans revealed. Super-agers have a thicker cerebral cortex, particularly in regions responsible for attention and memory, like the anterior cingulate cortex. This area typically thins with age, but in super-agers, it holds strong, almost youthful. But being a super-ager isn't just about scoring well on tests. These individuals live fully. They're mentally sharp, socially engaged, emotionally resilient, and physically active. Many report a strong sense of purpose, curiosity, and even joy. They often tackle puzzles, learn new languages, or volunteer well into their 90s. Their zest for life is as vibrant as their cognitive power. Yet scientists were still puzzled. Why them? Was it their lifestyle, their social habits, or some rare combination of both? The more researchers examined their habits, the more they realized, yes, environment plays a role, but something deeper was at work. Something hidden inside their biology. A deeper analysis of super-ager brains revealed more than just structure. It exposed differences in gene expression, immune function, and cellular resilience. Their brains aged, yes, but differently. More slowly. More robustly. And with far fewer of the markers typically associated with neurodegeneration. And that's when scientists started noticing a recurring genetic signal, one that appeared again and again in super-ager brain tissue. A gene that seemed to be doing something extraordinary. It wasn't just preserving memory. It was actively protecting the brain. This discovery led researchers straight to a genetic clue with incredible implications, and it starts with a gene known as MAP2K3. The mysterious gene, MAP2K3 and beyond. As scientists probed deeper into the biology of super-agers, one gene kept surfacing, MAP2K3. Found to be significantly less active in the brains of these high-functioning older adults, MAP2K3 quickly drew attention for its powerful role in regulating inflammation and stress responses within the brain. MAP2K3 isn't a household name, but its function is vital. It's part of the mitogen-activated protein kinase, MAPK, pathway, which helps the body respond to cellular stress. In ordinary aging brains, overactivity in this pathway is linked to chronic neuroinflammation, the slow-burning fire behind many age-related diseases, including Alzheimer's. But in super-agers, MAP2K3 seems to stay quiet, like a watchdog that knows when not to bark. The result? Less inflammation, less neural stress, and more protection for cognitive function. But MAP2K3 is just the tip of the genetic iceberg. Other genes are joining the conversation, like FOXO3, long associated with human longevity, and KL-CLOTHO, known for its neuroprotective effects and cognitive benefits. These genes don't just prevent decline. They appear to actively enhance brain health, increasing synaptic resilience, supporting neuron survival, and optimizing the communication networks within the brain. What's fascinating is how these genes seem to work together, like instruments in a symphony. One reduces cellular stress. Another boosts repair. A third improves memory circuitry. Together, they create an internal environment where the brain doesn't just age better, it fights aging altogether. Researchers have also observed that the expression of these genes isn't always fixed. Some super-agers may not have rare versions of these genes, but rather, they express them in unique ways. This leads scientists into the field of epigenetics, where lifestyle, environment, and even emotional habits can influence how genes behave. But no matter how these genes are activated, by biology, behavior, or both, the outcome is clear: a brain that shows remarkable resistance to the wear and tear of time. So what exactly is happening inside the brains of super-agers on a cellular level? How are their neurons staying so strong, their memory so crisp, even in their 80s and 90s? To answer that, we need to zoom in even further, to the microscopic structures, neural pathways, and resilient brain cells that set super-agers apart from the rest. Brain resilience at the cellular level. Zooming in on the brains of super-agers reveals something extraordinary: not just better memory, but biological structures that defy aging itself. While most aging brains shrink, losing volume in critical areas like the hippocampus and cortex, super-agers show minimal atrophy, particularly in regions tied to attention, emotion, and memory. One of the most striking discoveries is the thickness of the anterior cingulate cortex, a region deeply involved in decision-making, emotional regulation, and focus. In super-agers, this area remains surprisingly robust, resembling the brain of someone 30 years younger. This isn't just cosmetic. It translates directly to sharper thinking, better memory retention, and greater emotional resilience. But the cellular story goes even deeper. Super-agers possess more of a rare and specialized type of neuron known as von Economo neurons, or VENs. These cells are large, fast-conducting, and believed to play a crucial role in social awareness and rapid emotional processing. While these neurons typically decline with age, super-agers retain them in higher numbers, suggesting a powerful neurological edge in both cognition and emotional insight. Under the microscope, their neurons also appear healthier and more densely connected. Synapses, the communication bridges between brain cells, are more plentiful and better preserved. This dense connectivity allows their brains to process information faster and more efficiently, almost like a high-speed internet connection in a world full of lagging dial-up. Another key factor is the low accumulation of tau proteins and amyloid plaques, the toxic buildups commonly associated with Alzheimer's disease. Super-agers show far fewer of these destructive agents, suggesting their brains are either better at resisting their formation or more efficient at clearing them away. But resilience isn't just about structures, it's also about how cells respond to threats. And that brings us back to those key genes like MAP2K3 and FOXO3. These aren't just sitting idle in the background. They're actively influencing how brain cells manage stress, repair damage, and maintain communication. And central to all of this is one crucial biological force: inflammation. Not the kind you feel after an injury, but the silent, chronic kind that builds over decades and quietly erodes brain health. In super-agers, inflammation seems to be kept in check. So how exactly do these genes regulate inflammation? And could reducing it be the real secret to lasting brain youth? The role of inflammation and gene expression. Inflammation is the body's natural defense mechanism, a crucial response to injury or infection. But when this system stays switched on for too long, it turns from protector to saboteur. In the aging brain, chronic low-grade inflammation, often called inflammaging, quietly damages neurons, disrupts communication between brain cells, and accelerates cognitive decline. What sets super-agers apart is how their brains regulate inflammation differently, and this appears to be deeply tied to gene expression. Genes like MAP2K3, which we previously saw muted in Super-Agers, are part of the signaling pathways that trigger inflammation. In typical aging, this gene is more active, leading to a pro-inflammatory environment that slowly chips away at cognitive function. But in Super-Agers, it's dialed down, helping maintain a calmer, more stable neural landscape. Other genes also play a role. The FOXO3 gene, often dubbed the longevity gene, helps regulate oxidative stress and repair damaged DNA, both of which are connected to inflammatory responses. Super-Agers tend to express this gene more effectively, allowing their brains to quell inflammation before it becomes destructive. But it's not just about what genes are present. It's about how they're expressed, how active or silent they are in day-to-day brain function. This concept of gene expression is critical, because it reveals a powerful truth: not all genes are destiny. Their activity can be influenced, even altered, by outside factors. Recent research in epigenetics has shown that our behaviors, what we eat, how we move, how we sleep, even how we respond to stress, can change how our genes behave. Inflammation-related genes, in particular, are highly sensitive to lifestyle. For example, regular physical activity can down-regulate pro-inflammatory genes. A diet rich in antioxidants can do the same. And practices like meditation and social engagement have been linked to reduced inflammatory markers in the blood and brain. So while Super-Agers may carry protective genes, they also seem to live in ways that support those genes, creating a reinforcing cycle of resilience. This brings us to a compelling and hopeful truth. If gene expression is flexible, then perhaps super-aging isn't reserved for the genetically fortunate. Perhaps the way we live can write a new script for how we age, starting with the choices we make every day. Lifestyle and epigenetics. Genes aren't destiny. It's tempting to believe that super-agers were simply born lucky, with the right mix of protective genes and perfect biology. But emerging science tells a more empowering story. While genetics certainly matter, how those genes are expressed, turned on or off, is just as crucial. And that's where lifestyle enters the picture. Epigenetics is the science of gene expression. It shows us that our choices, what we eat, how we sleep, how we move, and even how we think, can directly influence which genes stay active and which ones stay silent. In other words, your DNA might set the stage, but your behavior writes the script. Take inflammation-related genes, for instance. People with a genetic tendency toward chronic inflammation can still down-regulate those genes through anti-inflammatory diets, regular aerobic exercise, and stress reduction practices like meditation or time in nature. Conversely, a poor diet or chronic stress can activate harmful pathways, even in people with otherwise protective genes. Studies on super-agers have revealed that many of them live in alignment with the very behaviors science now confirms as neuroprotective. They don't just sit back and coast on good genes, they live with intention. They remain socially engaged, mentally stimulated, and physically active well into their later decades. Many continue to work, volunteer, or pursue hobbies that challenge the brain and foster purpose. Even more fascinating is that these behaviors may actually shape brain structure. Exercise, for instance, is known to increase the volume of the hippocampus, a key region for memory. Learning new skills enhances synaptic connections. Sleep quality influences how well the brain clears out toxins and repairs damaged cells overnight. This feedback loop between behavior and biology means that the door to super-aging may be far more open than we once believed. Genes are the blueprint, but lifestyle is the builder, the designer, and the maintainer. And yet, some individuals seem to do all the right things, and still don't achieve super-ager status, while others thrive despite average habits. This has led scientists to look even further, toward people who not only live long but do so with exceptional vitality. Which brings us to an even older, even more mysterious population: centenarians. And within their genes, researchers are uncovering striking similarities to the super-agers. Genetic markers in centenarians and super-aging. If super-agers show us what's possible in the brain, centenarians offer a glimpse into the full-body blueprint of extreme longevity. These individuals live past 100, often with surprisingly low rates of chronic illness and cognitive decline. What's remarkable is that when scientists began comparing the genetics of super-agers and centenarians, they discovered striking overlaps. One of the most studied genes in both groups is FOXO3, a master regulator of stress resistance, DNA repair, and metabolism. Variants of this gene are found far more frequently in people who live past 100, and it's also associated with enhanced brain resilience in super-agers. FOXO3 doesn't just protect neurons, it helps coordinate cellular responses to inflammation, oxidative stress, and other forms of damage that accumulate with age. Another shared marker is the APOE2 variant, a rare form of the APOE gene that is believed to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease and improve brain lipid metabolism. While APOE4 increases Alzheimer's risk, APOE2 appears to have the opposite effect, and it's overrepresented in both super-agers and centenarians. The KL gene, which produces the klotho protein, is also common among these high-performing elders. Klotho plays a key role in regulating calcium signaling, protecting vascular health, and enhancing cognitive function. Higher levels of klotho are linked to slower brain aging and better memory, regardless of chronological age. What's especially compelling is that these genetic advantages often work synergistically. FOXO3 may help cells respond to stress, while klotho helps preserve neuron integrity. Together, they create a biological environment that's unusually resilient, both mentally and physically. But genetics alone can't explain it all. Some centenarians carry risky genes but never develop related diseases, suggesting that something beyond DNA is influencing their outcomes. And many super-agers, too, don't have every ideal gene variant. This has led researchers to explore how emotional resilience, social bonds, and psychological habits might interact with these genes, possibly even amplifying their effects. In both super-agers and centenarians, there's a common thread of strong interpersonal relationships, positive outlooks, and a deep sense of connection. Could it be that the mind and emotions, just like genes, play a protective role in how we age? Let's explore how emotional and social strength may act as a genetic buffer against time. Emotional and social strength as a genetic buffer, one of the most overlooked yet powerful traits in both super-agers and centenarians, isn't found under a microscope or inside a genome. It's seen in how they live, love, and connect. Time and time again, these individuals display extraordinary emotional resilience and deep social engagement. And science is beginning to understand why this matters at the biological level. Studies have shown that strong emotional regulation and close social ties can directly impact gene expression, particularly in genes linked to inflammation and immune function. Individuals with strong support systems tend to show lower levels of inflammatory markers and healthier immune profiles, even if they carry genetic risks for chronic disease. One gene that researchers have started to explore is OXTR, the oxytocin receptor gene. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone, and it plays a key role in trust, empathy, and human connection. Certain variants of OXTR have been associated with greater emotional regulation, reduced stress reactivity, and a heightened sense of social belonging. Super-agers with strong emotional lives may not just be more mentally stable, they may be activating protective pathways within their brains through these emotional bonds. Moreover, super-agers often exhibit what psychologists call adaptive coping styles. They navigate loss, trauma, and change with a sense of purpose, humor, or perspective. This doesn't mean they're immune to hardship. It means they've built a mental toolkit that helps shield their biology from the corrosive effects of chronic stress. And chronic stress, as we know, accelerates aging at the cellular level. Interestingly, this kind of psychological resilience also correlates with increased gray matter volume in key areas of the brain, such as the prefrontal cortex. Social engagement and emotional strength appear to work in tandem, providing both emotional nourishment and measurable neurological benefits. It all suggests a stunning possibility that love, connection, and emotional balance may work as a genetic buffer, dampening the expression of harmful genes and enhancing the function of protective ones. It's not just about who we are genetically, but also how we feel and who we share our lives with. But with so much attention on specific genes like MAP2K3 and FOXO3, many people are beginning to wonder, Can we actually test ourselves for these Super-Ager traits? Can a genetic test predict whether we're on track to age exceptionally well? Can we test for the Super-Ager gene? With so much buzz around genes like MAP2K3, FOXO3, KL, and OXTR, a natural question begins to surface. Can we actually test ourselves for the Super-Ager gene? Is there a way to know if we carry the genetic code for aging well, or if we're missing it entirely? The short answer is, partially. Modern genetic testing companies can identify some of the variants linked to longevity and cognitive resilience. You can find out if you carry the FOXO3 longevity variant, or whether you have a POE2, which is associated with a reduced risk of Alzheimer's. Some tests even look at Klotho gene variants, which influence brain aging and cardiovascular health. But here's the truth. No single test can predict super-aging. Because super-aging isn't defined by one gene. It's a multi-layered phenomenon influenced by hundreds of interacting genes, combined with environmental exposures, lifestyle choices, stress levels, social support, and even mindset. In fact, many super-agers don't carry all the ideal gene variants, and some who do never reach that level of cognitive performance. It's also important to understand that having a protective gene doesn't guarantee exceptional aging, just like having a risky gene doesn't doom you to decline. Genes increase or reduce probabilities, they don't write your future in ink. What's even more fascinating is that the same gene can behave differently depending on your life experiences. That's where epigenetics plays its crucial role. Even if you carry beneficial genes, their expression is heavily influenced by how you live, how much you move, how well you sleep, how often you connect with others, and how you handle stress. So while genetic testing can offer insight, it doesn't offer certainty. What it can provide is a helpful nudge, information that may inspire better choices, early interventions, or deeper curiosity about your body's potential. But perhaps the most powerful takeaway is this: you don't need perfect genes to pursue a super-ager life. Emotional strength, social bonds, movement, mindset, and meaning, these tools are available to nearly everyone. Because in the end, super-aging isn't about a single genetic trait hiding in your DNA. It's about how all the pieces, genes, choices, emotions, and environment, come together in harmony. So yes, genes matter. But they're only one instrument in a much bigger orchestra. Super-aging isn't written in stone by a strand of DNA. It's shaped by the choices we make, the lives we lead, and the people we love. The real magic happens when protective genes, healthy habits, emotional resilience, and deep human connection come together. That's the symphony. Not a solo, but a beautifully orchestrated life. And the best part? The music hasn't stopped. No matter your age, no matter your genes, you still have a say in how your story unfolds. If this video gave you hope, insight, or a reason to think differently about aging, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, your future is not fixed, it's full of possibility.